when draft week arrives, what kind of memories do you guys got? This is a big week in your life, draft week. You guys got any fun stories, tales from draft week back in the day? Anything you want to share there?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd put it. I mean, I just remember it being a busy week. There's just a lot going on. It was kind of hard to really calm down and internalize, what this week meant. And maybe it feels different now for kids in college because they're able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. But, you'd put in so much hard work, and there have been so many sacrifices, and there were so many people around you that sacrificed to help you get where you were. I was just, thankful and appreciative and just for the opportunity. I mean, honestly, that was how I kind of viewed it. And it was cool because so many people who did support me, were able to come to New York and were able to be a part of it. And so throughout the course of the week, I got the chance to, be able to see them and talk to them and thank them and hang out with them. It was just a really, really cool week. I mean, some of them had a little bit too good of a time.
There we go.
I remember two days before the draft, I brought a trainer up there. I'd done some boxing as cross training and all that, and he had kind of, just because it's great for your footwork, but obviously for a quarterback, setting up to throw a right-hand punch, very similar to setting up to throw, a pass if you're in the pocket. So a lot of your footwork really kind of mimics that. And so I had, started doing that back in high school, and I had brought him out there. And earlier in the week, things were starting to turn up a little bit for the draft where you'd go to some different appearances and parties, but not quite to the likes of what it was heading into, Thursday, Friday, because the draft was over the weekend back then. So I remember that Thursday night, and we had been out to a party, and pretty much everyone was in town at that point. And he got absolutely ripped. And I remember saying to him, I was like, hey, are you going to be in the weight room at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning? He's like, yeah, I got you. And I get down there around 4:50. And one of my buddies actually had stayed up all night partying, was hammered out of his mind, but he's sitting in the weight room with a newspaper on one of the benches just because he didn't want to go to sleep. And so he's sitting there with me, and I'm starting to warm up, and it's 5:15, no show, 5:20, and he's like, where is he? I was like, I don't know. I'm sure he got too banged up, ended up finding his way into someone else's hotel room. So, he stood me up. And I remember that was one of the last times I ever worked with him because I was kind of upset the fact that I don't care if anyone plays hard, but you got to work hard too. There's got to be that fine balance of it. But that relationship essentially ended at the draft because of that whole incident.
And now, what time did you finally hear back from him?
Literally not until later on that afternoon. So
because Lee DeLapp just wouldn't have responded at all.
Yeah, I mean, Lee might have sent up a smoke signal, letting you know he's still alive. I didn't hear back from him until probably 1 in the afternoon, I think. Hey, I messed up. Sorry about that. And there really wasn't much of an explanation. It was just kind of, sorry. See you tomorrow morning. I'm like, we're good.
He missed the workout by 8 hours. That's all. That's good. All right. Well, interesting. What about you, LaVar? Were you just thinking about who? Do you knew you were going to Washington number 2? It was set in stone, or was it some potential you were going to go number 1 as well too?
Well, again, we negotiated back then. So if you were going 1, you had your deal done before the draft even started, pretty much. So. But I'll say this. I'll go back. You say draft week. This is draft week, so I'm not going to be the draft was a blur. And I got to be honest, I was fatigued by the time I got to the draft. I could remember not being able to sleep the night before the draft. That was probably the biggest memory, I hate to say, from leading up to the draft, right there and then. But during the week, so a quick backstory. My father, he's a military dude. Like everybody, if you know the story, he lost, a foot and a leg in Vietnam when his group got, his squad got ambushed. He got caught on the tank tread, had to use his other foot to push himself off of the tank. That's the type of dad I had. It was, was this just hard-nosed military dude, no nonsense, and just get it done. So for my entire life, when I told my dad, my parents, I'm going pro. I'm going to go pro. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I would have great games in high school. I have great games in college. And my mom and dad would just be like, good job. In high school, it'd be like, good job. All right, make sure you get the trash cans out. Like I just ran for 290 yards in a game, Mom. My dad be looking at me like, yeah, you heard your mom, go take the trash cans out. And they never – my dad was such a man to me and such like a mythical figure in so many ways that I never could see myself having any type of like conversations with him like man to man. And I just remember maybe it was like right before we had left to go to New York, I was back home and me and my dad sat and talked. And we just talked for like 2-3 hours. And we talked as men. And all I could remember, was this. It was easily my fondest memory of it all because it broke me down. Like I cried. Like I cried. Every bit of weight that I had ever had on me in terms of what I wanted to achieve, the expectations that were placed on me, the non-expectations, right? When I was younger, they tried to put me in special education classes and said that, I couldn't learn, normal. I couldn't. There were so many things that, they were I guess my trajectory was always in question. And my father and my mother were always encouraging me and telling me what I define is what the definition of who I am is. And my father was always just very, as a matter of fact about it, like, well, if you can't learn, you can't learn. And it's like you're young and it's like, I don't get that. But it was like kind of his thing is you are what you are. And you're going to either earn what you are and make it yours, or you're going to allow people to define it for you. And I could just remember him sitting there, and it was the first time my dad had ever said to me, I can't believe how well you have done. I can't even begin to tell you how proud I am of all the things that you've overcome and all the conversations that pursued from that in those couple hours. It was like that was all I had ever. I could have missed the draft, died that next day, and that was a bigger moment than them calling my name at the draft. Was my dad finally acknowledging to me how proud he was of me.
That's awesome. And
that stood with me because, again, there were so many moments they were just, you just have to overcome. I don't think people understand how much work and how much heartache and setbacks and tears and even you see the good things, but you just don't see everything that takes place on that journey to getting your name called. And just for us to be able to kind of talk through things, that's probably easily the most memorable moment for me. Draft week was me and my dad had the first man-to-man conversation that I had in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty cool. I do think just in looking at this week, you get a bunch of guys who are 3 or 4 days away from, and they have no idea where they're going to spend the next potentially 10 years of their life. Have no idea. Like, they're just sort of waiting, and whatever team takes them, it just changes the course of history for them moving forward. Like, they're probably talking to a few teams. Maybe some teams they haven't talked to are going to end up drafting them. So it just, I think people that have never been drafted before, we at least have some sort of an understanding where we're going to be or an expectation where we're going to be.
But maybe you don't.
But these guys know they're going to be in the NFL, or at least most of them do, but have no idea what situation they're going to end up in. Have no clue.
See, I think that's the interesting thing about it is I don't think they do. I know I didn't. And the idea of it is that you know you're going to get drafted, but you don't know where you're going to be, but you don't know how it's going to play out either. I would have never thought my NFL career would have played out the way that it did. And for even that aspect of it, no matter what the career ended up being, I think the reason why that moment with my dad was so important was the accomplishment was the accomplishment. And the idea of it is even if you went undrafted, because there is the idea of understanding that there will be heartbreak during the draft as well. There will be many people who thought they were going to get drafted that don't get drafted. And then there's that idea of the reality of it is that, man, I got to come in as an undrafted guy and see if I can make it onto a team. There is a lot of uncertainties. There are a lot of uncertainties surrounding going into the draft and what it's going to be and where you're going to be. But I think the one thing that I took, the value that I took was if you can make it under these circumstances against all odds to be in a position, whether you get drafted or not, if you actually were able to get to this point, then you should be able to be successful in any and everything you endeavor or strive to do in your life, because it's difficult to get to that point. So you're all successes. You're all a success. You're not a failure if you don't get drafted. You're not a failure if you get drafted later than you thought you were going to get drafted. You're not a failure. You're actually a phenomenon. You're a phenomenal success. And you just got to realize that and realize who you are and let the rest of it, let the rest of it be what it's going to be.
It'd be nice.
Enjoy the moment.
Yeah, but it'd be nice not to be drafted by Jacksonville. I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah, well.
Go to that environment.
I mean, it is a no state income tax state.
Oh, that's true.
You get to keep a greater percentage of your bonus and all that.
That is
you
true.
Can't do donuts and Hellcats.
That is true. Yeah.
Like, you know what? Upon further review, that is.
You have a lot more fun driving.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is.
Byron Pringle.